Now to scenes that shocked us all this week. Terrified Afghans risking their lives to flee the Taliban. Amid the chaos, a brave female journalist from New Zealand who came face to face with the new rulers.
When I woke up Monday morning, the checkpoints were no longer Afghan army and police, they were Taliban with machine guns and rocket launchers. It's really surreal and everyone's still coming to terms with it.
The Taliban's swift takeover of Kabul this week and the exodus of terrified civilians that followed has left many of us stunned. But among the world's media still reporting from the Afghan capital was one brave woman taking no backward steps from the new force in town.
As a woman, should I be scared of the Taliban?
No, why should you be scared of us? You should never be afraid of us.
Charlotte Bellis was born in New Zealand, but as a reporter for Al Jazeera English, has now found herself coming face to face with the Taliban. What was it like heading out onto the streets of Kabul for the first time after the Taliban had taken over?
I guess we have a little bit of an advantage because we work for Al Jazeera, which is based in Qatar, and that's where negotiations have been ongoing between the Americans and the Taliban leadership for a kind of political settlement.
While nearly anyone else with a foreign passport has been trying to escape, Charlotte Bellis has stayed on to report these unbelievable events. At the Taliban's first ever press conference in Kabul, she was applauded around the world for asking the first question about women's rights.
What assurances can you give to women and girls that their rights will be protected?
The Islamic Emirate is committed to the right of women within the framework of Sharia.
Growing up in New Zealand, did you ever think that you'd be attending a Taliban press conference? What was that like?
Short answer, no. It's always been a dream of mine to be here and doing this type of work, but no one could have expected how it's played out, just a total collapse of the Afghan government. I mean, everyone's shocked. Even when I talk to the Taliban, they say, we're shocked. We can't believe this has played out like it has.
She believes female Afghan journalists are the ones who deserve the most praise, as images emerge of them fearlessly standing up to the Taliban.
They are so brave because they remember the 90s and how oppressive it was and that they could be punished for critiquing the Taliban. They're not sure what to expect, and yet they still stood up in that press conference and asked really hard questions. So they're going out on a much more of a limb than I am because anything could happen to them, and what kind of justice and protection can they get? They don't, I have the New Zealand government, I have Al Jazeera behind me, they do not.
Already images of women on shop fronts have been scrubbed across the city as the world watches to see what version of Sharia law the Taliban will implement. Afghans are also adjusting to Taliban now filling the role of police. This video shows them turning up to reports of looting armed with rocket launchers.
Shops have started reopening today. People are kind of getting used to the idea that they're going to see Taliban on every street corner. Driving here this morning, I saw hundreds of Taliban in a 10-minute drive, sitting on the street corners with machine guns, having a cup of tea and settling in.
While it may be relatively calm in parts of the city, the airport is still utter chaos. The Taliban are on one side using gunfire as a crowd control method. Civilians, including children, scatter, hoping they're not hit. Anyone who has a visa allowing them to leave has to find a way through this urban battlefield first. How dangerous and how volatile is that area trying to get into the airport at the moment?
Very volatile, a lot of gunfire, a lot of beatings. One of my colleagues tried to evacuate last night, but he went to the airport and he was beaten by the Taliban, and he's back at work today. He couldn't get on an evacuation flight. On the military side of the airport, US troops remain in control, sparking desperate scenes like this small baby being passed over the razor wire in the hope of escape. So there's a few hundred metres between thousands of US troops and hundreds of Talibs with machine guns, and yet they're kind of walking that tightrope at the moment, but There's thousands of people trying to get out, and as far as I can see, the Taliban are fairly overwhelmed and responding quite forcefully, pushing people back.
The Taliban are saying that they're going to be different this time. Based on what you've seen, do you believe them?
They're acting differently. They're acting more progressively, inclusively, respecting people. But the problem is, will it hold? It's like a watch and wait.
Yeah, it's a real dilemma. And a third Australian Defence Force plane with 80 evacuees from Kabul landed in Australia last night, but there are thousands more still waiting to be rescued.